Sunday School here at Upper Room Ministries in Dover, Pennsylvania. We're so glad that you've joined us this afternoon as we continue our study on the prophecies of the Bible, which have come to pass and which have yet to come to pass. Last week, we finished the book of Daniel, and we also finished the four major prophets. We shall now be beginning the 12 minor prophets in the Old Testament, beginning with the book of Hosea. God had placed Hosea on a very peculiar mission, to say the least. He was told to marry a prostitute named Gomer, and the reason God told him to do this was to symbolize God's relationship with Israel. God considered himself a husband to Israel, but Israel had become a whore, whoring herself out to other idols and such. And God was meant to use Hosea's life as a means of getting through to Israel just what her state was at the time. Okay. Let's start in verse 1. It says, "The word of the Lord that came unto Hosea, son of Beeri, in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel." So this is taking place prior to the invasion of Babylon, just so we're on the right timeline. Verse 2, "The beginning of the word of the Lord by Hosea, and the Lord said to Hosea, Go take unto thee a wife of whoredoms and children of whoredoms, for the land hath committed great whoredom, departing from the Lord. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, which conceived and bare him a son." So now we're at verses 4 and 5, and this is our first prophecy of the book of Hosea, prophecy 26:40 in total. It says, "And the Lord said unto him, Call his name Jezreel, for yet a little while, and I will avenge the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu, and will cause to cease the kingdom of the house of Israel. And it shall come to pass at that day that I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel." So, the meaning of the name Jezreel, Hosea's first son, was God would scatter Israel and sow them in all lands, and when his purpose was complete, he would again sow them in their own land. And the reason for this was to avenge the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu. Now, Jehu was the one who carried out God's judgment on the house of Ahab. He was the one that commanded the eunuchs to throw Jezebel out the window, and they did. The problem was when afterwards Jehu assumed the position of power, and he began committing the sins which he had delivered judgment upon the house of Ahab. So, this prophecy entails that God would put an end to Jehu's dynasty by breaking Israel's military power, and that's what God means when he says, "I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel." That's a reference to Israel's political power. Okay. Verse 6, prophecy 26:41. And she conceived again, and bare a daughter. And God said unto him, Call her Lo-Ruhamah, for I will no more have mercy on the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. Lo-Ruhamah, Lo-Ruhamah, that means not loved. And the prophecy is God would no longer have love or mercy upon the house of Israel, but they'd be scattered, which they were when they were taken into captivity by Babylon. But then verse 7, prophecy 26:42 says, But I will have mercy on the house of Judah, and will save them by the Lord their God, and will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battle, by horses, nor by horsemen. Now, we have to remember at this time that Israel was a kingdom divided. You had the 10 northern kingdoms, which were Israel, and the 2 southern kingdoms, which were Judah. And God is being very specific here. He would not have mercy on Judah, but would have he would not have mercy on Israel, but would have mercy on Judah. And he would be done solely by his own divine power, not by any man-made power, sword, battle, horses, or horsemen. Okay, verse 3. Now when she had weaned Lo-Ruhamah, she conceived again, and bare a son. So this is the 3rd child between Hosea and Gomer. Then said God, Call his name Lo-Ami. Okay. For ye are not my people, and I will not be your God. That's pretty clear cut. God is saying that I will no longer call you my people, and I will not be your God. He's more or less saying he's divorcing himself from Israel, and his presence simply will not be there. Which, as we know, came to pass with the captivity that came upon them. Yeah, as we all recall, back in Jeremiah, he called Nebuchadnezzar his servant. So, with the invasion of Nebuchadnezzar's army into Israel, God was on his side, which meant he wasn't on Israel's side when that happened. So that's the fulfilling of that one. Okay. Verses 10 and 11. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there shall it be said unto them, Ye are the sons of the living God. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel shall be gathered together, and appoint themselves one head. They shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel. So, this is prophecy 26:44. In the future, there would be a restoration of both kingdoms of Israel and Judah, and they would come together once again as one whole kingdom. There would not be this division between the 10 northern nations and the 2 southern nations. They would again become one, which has happened as Israel once again became a nation back in the 20th century, and most likely it probably came to pass even before then, after the Babylonian captivity. I believe that is what happened. So, that's come to pass. Alright, now we move to chapter 2, starting in verse 1. Say ye unto your brethren, Ami, and to your sisters, Ruhamah, plead with your mother, plead with your mother, for she is not my wife, neither am I her husband. Let her therefore put away her whoredoms out of her sight, and her adulteries from between her breasts, lest I strip her naked, and set her as in the day that she was born, and make her as a wilderness, and set her like dry land, and slay her with thirst. So God is saying that if Israel does not give up her whoredoms, her idolatries, he would strip Israel, just strip her of everything, of resources, materials, military might, anything. She would be completely and totally helpless and vulnerable. Okay. And verses 4 through 13, go into a greater detail of what being stripped would look like. You can read those on your own. I'm not going to go into those right now. Instead, let's skip ahead to verse 14. Starting in verse 14. Verses 14 through 23 all deal with what will happen with the restoration of Israel. And let's break everything down here. Starting in verse 14. Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her. Now, this phrase right here, bring her into the wilderness. The book of Revelation, chapter 11, it talks about the woman going into the wilderness. Very likely, this is a reference to that last days prophecy, which therefore has yet to come to pass. And then verse 15, and I will give her, verse 15, prophecy 26:47, I will give her vineyards from thence, and the valley of Achor for a door of hope, and she shall sing there, as in the days of her youth, as in the day when she came up out of the land of Egypt. Then verses 16 and 17, prophecy 26:48. And it shall be in that day, saith the Lord, that thou shalt call me Ishi, and shalt call me no more Bali. Okay. And then, for I will take away the names of Balaam out of her mouth, and they shall be no more remembered by their name. So, it's the removal of idols from the mouth of Israel in the latter days. And then verses 18 through 19, prophecy 26:49. And in that day I will make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, and with the fowls of heaven, and with the creeping things of the ground. And I will break the bow and the sword and the battle out of the earth, and I will make them to lie down safely, and I will betroth thee unto me forever. Yea, I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness and in judgment and in loving kindness. I will even betroth thee unto me in faithfulness, and thou shalt know the Lord. And it shall come to pass in that day, I will hear, saith the Lord, I will hear the heavens, and they shall hear the earth, and the earth shall hear the corn and the wine and the oil, and they shall hear Jezreel. So again, another latter-day prophecy. It's talking about a covenant that God will make with the beasts of the field, and also says, break the bow and the sword and the battle out of the earth. Could that mean earthly armies? It may. It could also mean natural disasters, earthquakes, storms, whatever nature can dish up. So there'd be peace between Israel and the animals and the earth. So And then it talks about a betrothal, and Israel will once again be truly married to God. In Revelation talks about the marriage supper of the Lamb. Quite possibly these verses could be a reference to the marriage supper of the Lamb, which will take place again in the end times. I don't know if that is the case, but it very well could be. And then finally, verse 23, "And I will sow her unto me in the earth, and I will have mercy upon her that had not obtained mercy. And I will say to them which were not my people, Thou art my people, and they shall say, Thou art my God." So this is actually quoted in Romans chapter 9, verse 25. This is not only meant for the Gentiles, but also for the Jews, which were not of God, who were not of the Messiah. So, again, it is coming to pass right now. Those of us Gentiles who were not of Israel are now part of the family through the Messiah, as are those who are of bloodlines of Israel, but not really part of the family, because they had until they've received the Messiah. All right, chapter 3. "Then said the Lord unto me, Go yet, love a woman, beloved of her friend, yet an adulteress, according to the love of the Lord, toward the children of Israel, who look to other gods and love flagons of wine. So I bought her to me for 15 pieces of silver, and for a homer of barley, and a half homer of barley. And I said unto her, Thou shalt abide for me for many days, and thou shalt not play the harlot, and thou shalt not be with another man, so I will also be for thee." So at this time, Gomer had gone back to her old ways of prostituting herself. She had been unfaithful to Hosea, but by the command of God, he purchased her back. He was told by God to give her another chance, even though she had been committing adulteries, committing whoredoms against him. And verse 3, he informed her that she would not have any sexual relations with any man, including himself. So, and which brings us to verse 4, prophecy 26:51. "For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, and without a prince, and without a sacrifice, and without an image, and without an ephod, and without a teraphim." Okay. It says, and all that had been literally true for many centuries, from 616 BC until today. They had not had a king or a prince. They did not return from Babylon and renew the sacrifices. But since AD 70, they have not even had this. They have been without images and teraphim all these years, so that the prophecy has been literally fulfilled, which was symbolized by Gomer's celibacy. Verse 5, prophecy 26:52. "Afterward shall the children of Israel return, and seek the Lord their God, and David their king, and shall fear the Lord and his goodness in the latter days." Key phrase being latter days. Now notice it says David their king. There are those who say David will have dominion over the new Israel under the authority of Messiah. It could also refer to David's descendant being their king, which of course would be the Messiah. Jesus did, after all, come from David's lineage. And I'm not going to speculate as to which is more likely. We'll certainly find out when it actually happens. But those are the two interpretations of that prophecy. Again, that's 2652. All right, we move now to chapter 4. It says, "Hear the word of the Lord, ye children of Israel, for the Lord hath a controversy with the inhabitants of the land, because there is no truth, nor mercy, nor knowledge of God in the land. By swearing and lying and killing and stealing and committing adultery, they break out, and blood toucheth blood." All right, verse 3, prophecy 2653. "Therefore shall the land mourn, and every one that dwelleth therein shall languish, with the beasts of the field and with the fowls of heaven. Yea, the fishes of the sea shall be taken away." So they'll be dwelling with the beasts of the field, not in their own homes. Again, going back to Israel being stripped earlier in the book. Verse 4, prophecy 2654, "Yet let no man strive, nor reprove another, for thy people are as they that strive with the priests. Therefore shalt thou fall in the day, and the prophet shall also fall by night, and I will destroy thy mother." Okay. This refers to the priests and the prophet also falling into judgment, thus saying nobody has any business reproving anyone because you're all corrupt, including the priests and the prophets. So they too would fall. Okay, then verse 6, prophecy 2655. "My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing thou hast forgotten the law of God, I will also forget thy children." So God is saying, because you have forgotten my law, I shall forget you, which did come to pass. Prophecy 2655. All right, then we skip down to verse 14. It says, "I will not punish your daughters when they commit whoredom, nor your spouses when they commit adultery, for themselves are separated with whores, and they sacrifice with harlots. Therefore the people that do not understand shall fall." So God is saying He's not going to punish these sinful people in this life. Yes, God does sometimes just let the wicked just carry on in their wickedness, without any reproval, because He knows it just wouldn't do any good. But even though He's not going to bother with punishment in the living life, He certainly will in the afterlife. Again, prophecy 2656. Okay, verse 15. "Though thou, Israel, play the harlot, and yet let not Judah offend, and come not ye unto Gilgal, neither go ye up to Bethaven, nor swear the Lord liveth, for Israel slideth back as a backsliding heifer. Now the Lord will feed them as a lamb in a large place. Ephraim is joined to idols, let him alone, their drink is sour. They have committed whoredom continually, her rulers with shame do love give ye. So this is a warning God is giving to the two southern kingdoms of Judah. They're saying, just don't involve yourself in the affairs of Israel, because Israel will not have any of God's protection. Therefore, you involved yourself in Israel's business, you too will be without protection. All right. Chapter 5. It says, starting in verse 1, Hear ye this, O priests, and hearken ye house of Israel, and give ye ear, O house of the kingdom, for judgment is toward you, because you have been a snare on Mizpah, and a net spread on Tabor, and the revolters are profound to make slaughter, though I have been a rebuker of them all. I know Ephraim and Israel is not hid from me, for now, O Ephraim, thou committest whoredom, and Israel is defiled. They will not frame their doings to turn unto their God, for the spirit of whoredoms is in the midst of them, and they have not known the Lord. Now we come to verses 5 through 8. And the pride of Israel doth testify to his face, therefore shall Israel and Ephraim fall in their iniquity, Judah shall also fall with them. And then it goes on, it says, they shall go with their flocks and with their herds to seek the Lord, but not find him. They have dealt treacherously against the Lord, and they have begotten strange children, and now shall a month devour them with their portions. So here now God is saying both Ephraim and Israel, along with Judah, shall also fall, and he even gives a time frame. It says a month. It says within a month all these things shall happen, which they did. Well, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much. We shall pick up in chapter 5 next time.